Guys, welcome to my News Report Nigeria. I am Chidozie.
And I'm Walter.
It's been a very long time since we've had an episode out.
It has.
I was going to say life has been happening, but that was the excuse I gave the last time. So I guess like everybody else, I'm just going to put it all on COVID.
Oh yeah, it's been
we hope you all have been good, socially distancing. Particularly if you are in Nigeria, it's very clear that the vaccines are not going to reach us anytime soon. So it's best that we keep all the preventive measures in place. Wear your masks. This is supposed to be a festive period, but it doesn't quite feel like it.
And it doesn't help that we are, considering the fact that we have this whole ass virus that is threatening our humanity, that we're supposed to be doing good for each other. Our humanity is supposed to be top notch, and yet the world is doing shitty things to the world. And the mother whose son went to a Deeper Life boarding school would attest to that.
That's true.
I mean, you guys must have seen these viral videos that have been making the rounds on social media recently about a mother who revealed that her son was abused when he went to a boarding school, a Deeper Life boarding school, and she revealed pictures of him when he went to the school, and
when he returned.
The juxtaposition of those photos and him, what he was looking like now, it was just like, my goodness, what is going on? What happened there? And there was also a hint, I think there was a hint of the fact that he may have also been sexually abused, in addition to him being malnourished and the rest of them.
The school.
And boarding school sexual abuse has a way of triggering homophobia, making people start, dragging homosexuality, once again. And that has been making the rounds.
It's manifestly ridiculous. What I even find most upsetting is the fact that something so dreadful has happened to this young man. Like, nobody's talking about that anymore. It's not about homosexuality or whether or not in secondary schools, bloody.
I mean, can we?
Like, nobody is even talking about. I mean, for something like that, look, I saw the pictures before the boy went to school and the pictures when he returned. Like, he went through that drastic change. He was under the care of people. He was under the care of adults, and nobody thought that something was wrong. Nobody thought to check. That should tell you the level of irresponsibility within the ranks of the school management. So, but there's no talk about that. It's just a lot of love and light. God will heal him in Jesus' name and blah-di-da-di-da. But homosexuality. And it's like, make it make sense to me. I can't even begin to understand the thought process.
There was some time in September, a few months ago.
Yeah, while Big Brother Nigeria was happening.
Yeah, this same issue
Same kind of sentiment, yeah.
So we are going to be talking about something that one would expect had died of unnatural causes a long time ago, but somehow still keeps showing its ugly head. Very recently on a Nigerian reality show, one of the contestants basically made the connection between sexual abuse of young boys and homosexuality. Basically suggested that people who are same-sex attracted are those who have been sexually abused.
All the rationalizations are just insufferable, because either people are saying
stupid.
In addition to being, people are saying, oh, he may be speaking from his own personal experience.
So
other people are saying, oh, but yes, it's not. Of course, it's not everybody, but we can't deny the fact that there are some people who are gay because they were sexually abused.
Can I just come in here? Like, this talking about, you can't deny the fact that there are people who are gay because they're sexually abused, and he's probably speaking from personal experience. Like, shock, guys. People who are gay and bisexual also get sexually abused. This rationalization is somehow, for me, it's something that sort of panders to internalized homophobia. So yeah, you wind up gay, or you're gay and you're bisexual, and you've also had experience of sexual abuse, so it's like, oh, it has to be that caused it, right? Because how else would I explain? I have to have come out right from the factory.
Well, it's just, and this thing always takes away the experiences of those who were sexually abused by women. It always does not take into cognizance that there are queer women who were sexually abused by men, and there are queer men who were sexually abused by women. So it's like, okay, so what are you saying?
I actually feel like we are going too deep, because this is manifestly ridiculous. Because if being sexually abused by somebody of the same sex is the reason why people wind up gay, then there'd be no straight men, no heterosexual men who have been sexually abused by men. There'd be no heterosexual women who have been sexually abused by women. So these things are not tied together in any way. I will not categorically say that, because there's no, like, speaking based on evidence, there is no, I don't know that anybody has tried to find some neural switch in the head that suddenly goes kaput when a person becomes sexually molested by somebody of the same sex as opposed to somebody of the opposite sex. What we know about sexual orientation is basically that it just is, right? Beyond that, there's nothing, and this is something I always tell people, there's nothing that could possibly be true for homosexuality or bisexuality that would not be true for heterosexuality. There is no proof that that these things, for example, that people are born gay. There's also no proof that people are born heterosexual. So you can make the argument that heterosexuality is natural because it is the way to keep the species going. But overpopulation is also a problem. So we can also make the argument that homosexuality is nature's way of balancing out the population. So it's just utterly ridiculous, because none of this is rooted in facts. All of these ideas about sexual orientation, in terms of it being, in terms of the purpose it serves, none of that is rooted in fact. It's just these are just values that we placed based on the systems that we maintain. And a lot of these systems are designed to oppress people. Patriarchy is designed to oppress people. Sexism is designed to oppress people. Something we need to be clear on is sexual abuse is not sex. It's not sexual. It's violence. That's what it is. It is violent.
It is.
So this speaking about it in terms of, because we call it sexual abuse, this terms of speaking of it as though it is actually sex, as though these people are trying to make connections as opposed to imposing their will on other people. It's utterly ridiculous.
So that, if somebody goes on to start having whatever kind of sex that they have, that you
goes on to start abusing other people,
that you feel is rooted in the abuse that they suffered, it speaks nothing to the person's sexual orientation. And I refuse transference of violence from the sense of power, from the powerless to the sense of the powerful.
The thing about sexual orientation, which is one of the reasons why I also struggle with this bond this way, because sexual orientation is something that unfolds your knowledge with the rest of your knowledge about yourself. Sometimes you don't know right off the bat. It's something that you come into, right? Particularly for people, say people who are, bisexual. A lot of times, something you come into. So the fact that you were sexually abused by somebody of the same sex, and then you go on to be attracted to people of the same sex, doesn't then mean that you were converted by that experience.
A right-thinking human being, actually said that. You have to, in defense of this reality show contestant who said what he said. There was a part where he said something about how the reaction in women is different, but for boys, it's mostly the same. You now go on to molest other boys, but how women react to it is different. How women react to it is different. And then somebody came up and I was like, you have to understand, when you're saying about how lesbian women don't become straight from being molested by men, you have to understand that lesbian women then go on to hate men, and that is why they become or men, for men it's different, for women it's different. Women go on to hate men, and that's why they become queer, and then men go on
men
to...
are incapable of hate. Interesting. I mean, we've finally solved it. Like, this is it. Wow.
This year has been like a
Roller
shithole
coaster.
of the bad. I mean, some good, but really the bad is just very troubling because, I mean, for instance, very, very much earlier in the year, I think in April, there was this viral video on
happened this year,
social
though.
media. Yes.
For a second, I was thinking that happened last year.
About a guy who basically confessed to murdering another guy who came to hook up with him. It is not so much the fact that, that thing happened as it is the fact that, where did that go to? Like, what has happened?
Nothing happened after that.
In fact, I felt so much outrage after a few days, and the media were trying to humanize
Yes.
the
That's what I was going
criminal.
to talk about. Yes, the length to which they went trying to paint this murderer as the victim. This person literally killed a person. That's like the height of it. That's like the most heinous thing any person can do.
And he
took another human life.
There was no debate. He confessed.
He did it. He confessed to it. And then somehow in the newspapers, I'm trying to remember, there's this particular Guardian and a bunch of other ones, but there was this particular one that made me see red. So in this article, these very ridiculous headlines, and the entire thing was just garbage. I think the tilt of the narrative was how they're trying to paint this whole picture of revulsion, and so because of his revulsion, he was compelled to kill.
What do they call that? Gay panic. That's what they call that.
Oh, there's a word for that.
In the US. The look on your face. But it's a defense whatever strategy that is being stricken down in most of the states in the US. But yeah, it is called gay panic.
They actually had that as a defense.
It used to be a defense that when somebody kills someone else who's gay during a hookup, you can actually say, but you were panicked by the fact that a homosexual person touched you or something like that. It is. But there you have it. That while it just goes, it behooves me to point out the fact that while the first world countries are striking this off, moving away from what is clearly a very ridiculous justification of murder, Nigerians, the media are peddling it, trying to sanitize the identity of a person who admitted to killing someone else simply because he killed a gay man. It's like
it was beyond. Like, see, I keep saying that nothing I can see at this point will shock me, but I was actually, for a second, I was actually shocked by those articles, by those news articles. Like, are you being serious right now? Somebody sat down and wrote this nonsense and put it out. But it has to be, I mean, obviously, homophobia is a neurosis, right? And is this sort of behavior that underlines it. For a right-thinking human being to see that this man killed another person who, first of all, did not, like, they had in what's it called? There was
An arrangement.
an arrangement.
A
They talked online.
conversation,
They
yes.
had conversation. So this person premeditated this to kill this person. Like there was no other reason for getting this person to come to him other than to kill him. And then you have all of that evidence, and you right think the person thinks, okay, I'm just going to sit behind my computer and write a defense for the murderer. Like something is wrong with you. You're not okay.
See, this is one of the reasons, one of the main reasons why I have no patience for homophobia or for people like Simi, you know, who went on. I mean, right, like Dozie rightly pointed out, homophobia has to be a mental thing, because why else would Simi go on a show called Stupid? What was that?
Because the show was a stupid show. I mean,
Stupid sessions
it's
or
in the
whatever.
name.
To talk about, publicize her homophobia. Look, guys, before you start coming for our heads, oh, but she apologized. This is an overview. We're essentially talking about this CA in a nutshell.
And I mean, I like that she apologized.
Yeah,
I mean, I
Simi's
thought that was
homophobia
something interesting.
was something that happened this year, and one of the things I found very commendable about that situation is that the trajectory it went from somebody who said something horrible about a marginalized community, eventually coming to own her shit and say, okay, I am sorry, this is what happened. I have learned my lesson, and it doesn't come. It's a very rare thing for Nigerian celebrities to own their shit and actually speak on it.
And I actually think that was. I mean, I think that was a pivotal moment. Pivotal is probably putting too much of a shine on it, but I think it was a notable moment.
Yeah.
Because I do not know that something like that has happened before, where somebody in Nigeria, a Nigerian celebrity,
God,
where
no.
everybody is insane and they get away with all sorts of shit, right? I don't know that a Nigerian celebrity has ever made, and several of them have made, they've even put it in songs. So I don't know that anyone has apologized without being backed into a corner first for that to happen.
For that, yeah,
right?
exactly.
So it's actually quite notable, and which is also why I think that we need to give people space to grow and become better.
Yeah, there was a lot of backlash even after she apologized. There was a lot of people not doubting her motives, and people not trusting that she was coming from a genuine place. And then there was all these when it became public knowledge that her husband Adekunle Gold was going to be on the cover.
That was garbage, please.
Sort of, yeah.
That didn't make any sense.
There was
a magazine that had like, was it 7,000 followers on their Instagram? Is not a level up for anybody. It doesn't mean a level up for me that nobody knows. Let alone
if anything, I do think that maybe, I could be wrong, but I do think that maybe their affiliation with that magazine may have jarred into Simi a need to be like, oh, but you know what?
First of all, Simi is not an extension of her husband. Let's start there. Adekunle Gold very well. He outlined his position. He has never been on record to be homophobic, and he believes that everybody deserves equal rights and all of that, which is wonderful. So, I mean, I imagine that he has been that way for a while, even before his wife went out to do the stupid show thing. So she's an individual. So if anybody's dealing, I sort of feel like if I was saying anything about Simi, we should just keep it to stick to what she actually did or what she didn't do. What her husband did, as far as she's concerned, is extraneous.
Yeah.
So because sex is not a sexually transmitted disease, but I do like that she. I was actually proud of her, right?
I mean, some people, somebody like Pamela said she could now listen to Duduke. I mean, there is a resentment you feel for someone, and then when they put out their work, you'd be like, oh no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going. But then when they give you the excuse, like they do the right thing, you'd be like, oh God, good. Now I can now.
But it actually work that way. Because I mean, this is one of the things that I feel guilty about sometimes. My politics, right, it just does not translate smoothly into my taste in music. For example, when Burna Boy's album came out, that is what's the name of that song? Waiting the Song. For some reason, I told myself I was going to listen to the album at first, but when I first heard the song on the radio, it was like so danceable. Like I really, really like this song. I was like, oh God, why do I feel like moving to why exactly do I feel like moving to this song? So a lot of times, like there are lots of great areas with all of that, but I felt really proud of Simi. I thought that was a really, commendable thing for her to do. I'm not very big on giving people roses for doing the barest minimum, but because of what social capital she has, I thought that was an interesting thing to see play out.
Another thing that happened this year was Gabon decriminalizing homosexuality.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Nigeria, see your mates.
I mean, your mates. Gabon is not even. Exactly. Giant of Africa, and the little the people that you are gianting over are just making giant strides. It's just if anything, that happening, Simi apologizing for homophobia and then Gabon decriminalizing homosexuality, one might be tempted to think that okay, well, there is inch by inch movement in the way of progression.
I mean, it's inevitable. Listen, all the gatekeepers at this point, they will die. If let's just even say that everybody says, okay, we will not. People will still die. And young people are coming up who are better informed than you, who have, better sensibilities about these issues than, my Bible said, my pastor said. That's not an argument. So, right? So, one way or the other, change is always inevitable.
It will happen.
All of this is because I want to be able to see this in my lifetime.
I mean,
but as to whether it will happen, it will. There is nothing anybody can do about it. It will happen.
I mean, who would have thought that at some point there was going to be a pride thing, a pride event that has to do with Africa, Nigeria?
Well, I thought somebody organized a pride event some time ago.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. I want to take this moment to actually personally thank Kehinde Badamosi and every other person that were involved in Pride Africa. That was a very, very monumental thing to have achieved. Not only considering the fact that, we did this for homophobic societies, or for queer people in homophobic societies, but also that it was achieved in a pandemic. So it was like being monumental. Doubly going against a double obstacle, and yet it was something that was achieved, and it's something that has gone down in the annals of history
as the first of its kind.
Exactly, and so
like what you heard. At some point, I'm surprised you didn't get it the first time.
I did. I have not got it.
The very first in history Pride event.
Yes, whatever you may have heard about what was the first, this was the first.
Was the actual first,
and it's called Pride Africa. I wish. I do hope it's something that is that already that it's out, like that can be seen, because it was all streams and stories and stuff like that. I think I would
recordings
so that people can relate to at some point whenever you want to get sentimental about history. I mean, this is African LGBT history. You get, and it's big. It's big. It's really big, and I'm proud of that. Just as we are proud of Pamela Adie. And what
Ife the movie.
Yes. What a fantastic piece of art that she has put out. Ife the movie,
It's had quite a run this year. All the festivals, the nominations.
It
all
has.
It's been really amazing.
It's been a very, very and
the director, Uyai, was on the BBC's list of, I think, most influential, most powerful women in the world.
Are you serious?
Yeah. She was on the list. I mean, it was pretty monumental.
Under a rock and haven't heard about Ife the movie, we are here to bring you up to speed. Ife is a film produced by the Quality Hub and directed by Uya Ibetim, and it explores the relationship between two young lesbians. And the reception the film has gotten so far and the conversations around it have made us think about the topic we want to discuss today on the show. If perhaps we have been, or if perhaps we are overestimating homophobia in the arts in Nigeria.
I remember with in one of our earliest episodes when the show began, the Minority Report began, we talked about media representation in Nigeria and the LGBT representation in media in movies. And I remember we were very, we lampooned Nollywood.
It's a good reason. I stand by everything I said.
That opinion has changed. So, you know, we talked about a lot about the irresponsibility that Nollywood has when it comes to representing the LGBT minority. But now we just basically want to, you know, considering how the reception surrounding Ife the movie, unless what we've been watching or noticing are, you know, opinions from a bubble, but I feel like there have been a lot of the reception and the reviews have been very, very welcoming, and you know, it just feels like it leaves room for the question: has the shift that we've always been waiting for, is it already happening and we didn't know? Like, are we overestimating the intensity of homophobia in the arts or in the media?
Yeah,
in
like,
Nigeria.
Are we in the arts overestimating the intensity of homophobia in Nigeria? Because usually, I think there was this interview with Tope Oshi some time ago. You know, these are things you'd hear constantly with movie makers when they're asked about handling queer themes and talking about how Nigeria is probably not ready for it yet and stuff. So it's like, with the reception to Ife the movie, it's like, not ready where?
Yeah, because, and it's not even the movie makers themselves. It's the consumers in the minority groups. You know, you keep, you know, like, okay, for instance, the last time there was this a few weeks ago when there was this show of affection between two men on the BB Niger show, and you know, of course, that was welcome. That was received with so much anticipation and, you know, happiness, especially in the minority group, because, you know, for a show that has been overwhelmingly heterosexual, it was very, very gratifying to see two men be that affectionate towards each other.
What did they do? Did they kiss?
No, they didn't. They cuddled and they held hands. When we started talking about it on Twitter, and there was all these questions about, why, well, isn't this indicative that it might actually be okay if, you know, there was a lot more queer affirming housemates in the house?
Absolutely.
And there was the pushback, and this pushback wasn't even from anyone who is not queer. It was mainly from queer people saying, "Oh, but Nigeria is not ready," or, you know, Nigeria is not ready. That was just the recurring theme in the pushback. Nigeria is not ready. Nigeria. And I keep finding myself, like, I keep wondering, but how do you know when Nigeria is ready? You know?
Yeah.
How what's the litmus test for how Nigeria becomes ready?
We ask if our priests and they shake carries and let us know when Nigeria is ready.
I'm starting to think that this reason is no longer the reason for for reason's sake, but an excuse for not being bold enough to do that thing, which should be our responsibility to do.
That's a crutch. Oh,
yes.
we are not doing this because, you know, Nigeria is so homophobic. And I think, like, I to an extent, not to an extent, I do understand the fear of hypervisibility, but then, you know, there's never going to be a time when homophobia is not so much.
Exactly.
Homophobia anywhere, even if it's, you know, concentrated to one local government area, is too much. So there's never going to be a time homophobia is not too much. And anyone with ideas, you know, about more ways to center, you know, the lives and the experiences of LGBT people, not necessarily in terms of like the oppression, but there's so much richness to, you know.
I was talking to. There was a movie maker I was talking to.
Complexities, confusions around certain
Yeah, there was a movie
things.
maker I was talking to, and
things
the moment I started talking about LGBT representation in movies, he just jumped into, oh, but now Nigerians don't like to see two men kiss, and I'm like, but I didn't say that though. It doesn't have to just jump right into the steamy.
What if it did?
I'm just saying. Does it have to, like, you can explore LGBT representation in different ways?
I mean, this is so funny. Like, it's interesting what you're saying now, because I remember watching an interview, Ngozi Nwosu's interview, about being the first person to engage in a kiss on screen in Nigeria. The terror around that. This was a kiss between a man and a woman. But at the time, it was such a big deal. It's nothing about this is new.
I have made this post.
Nothing about this is new.
I remember I was reminiscing on a Facebook post where I talked about how we were alive when this, we're all here
in our lifetime of this scandal.
When Nigerian artists, when performers on Nollywood films started kissing, and we were here, we saw how the length and breadth of Nigeria was outraged by it. Oh my God! In fact, that time when the Ghanaian film started simulating sex, it was like, oh my God, Ghana is spoiling Nigeria. Ghana is soiling the culture, the morality of Nigerian, the Nollywood, and when Nollywood started doing it, we're like, oh my God, Nollywood is copying Ghana. Why can't you people observe more Christian morals and blah 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 all that?
You know what?
But then
it came and it went.
We moved, we lived. We are still watching. Nollywood didn't die. So people who did those things.
It is out on the EHTV channel. Please go check it out. It's a very fantastic movie. If not for anything, I think it's a good effort on letting you know what our story is. Forget about what Nollywood has been putting out in the past and all the misrepresentation.
Exactly. This is like there are two major things I really, really like about this. First is the fact that it's focused on lesbians. We don't get to see those narratives a lot in general. And second is that it was made by people who had the right frame of mind, who were invested in, like any filmmaker should be, who were invested in actually creating real characters, characters that could resonate with people, that people could relate it on an emotional level, as opposed to creating caricatures, which is generally what we tend to find in productions about LGBT issues or LGBT people on this side of the globe. So this in many ways was groundbreaking, and I think the reception that it got is testament to that fact.
This basically just brings us back to our final part of the overview of what has happened this year. The COVID-19 pandemic. It has been rough. It has been brutal. I can't even imagine, the many people that have been, especially in our community, that have been affected by this in very uncomfortable ways. Enough can't be said of everyone who's out there doing what they can for our community to make sure that people who are worse off worse off because of this pandemic can find their way back. I cannot thank the organizations and the people that I've worked with in the past few months to, get what is necessary to those who need it. I can't thank you enough. You know yourselves. There was an event I was at recently, and this was a small get together for community people, and there were all these packages of palliatives, that were filled with welfare stuff, rice, provisions, stuff like that we're going to give to some people who've had it rough in the community. And it was just, it was very heartwarming. I mean, I came close to tears a few times when I was in that gathering, and it just reinforced the because there is a tendency to believe the worst about our community, even by those in the community.
Yes.
But as time goes on, we over here we have some projects that are lined up that we want to use to shed a light on this very, very important issue about the humanity of our community. But right now, we just want to say thank you to all those who do what they can to make life better for those in our community. Those who are easily forgotten, as the rest of us who are more privileged match on. It's a very, very wonderful, humane thing to be able to recognize them and remember them. And to those who are still suffering from the pangs of the pandemic, it's cliche, but hang on, it will get better. I mean, there are those who didn't know that they were going to be on the receiving end of all these of the good fortune of those who were making the effort, where they were thinking the worst about their lives, and then it turned around when somebody said, you know what, because you're suffering and I have something to give to you, I'm going to give it to you. And so I just think that a time will come when there is the help that will get around to every one of us who are suffering during this pandemic. But in the meantime, it's best for us to stay safe and try and keep our minds, oh God, our minds, very important, our minds healthy and untouched by all the shit that is going on. But yeah, please stay safe. And yeah, like we said in the beginning, it isn't a very festive season. There's so much to not celebrate, but life is there. We might as well celebrate that.
Yeah. Okay. You say so.
Please don't be cynical. Don't buy into cynicism. Please celebrate life. Celebrate the fact.
It's important, obviously.
Yeah.
Like.